Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. President Biden has put it out there that America faces a choice. We'll talk about what the president said in his latest op-ed to the American people, just a little bit less than 2 weeks away from the national midterm elections. We'll have that conversation. Plus, let's talk about the latest in Brittney Griner. Folks, I don't know about y'all, but I'm hoping that things will change. But according to the latest developments in her story, it may not happen when she gets home anytime soon. Wow. We'll have that conversation. Then later on, let's talk about how we can make lasting change with the Well-Being of the Nation Network, the WIN Network, and what they're doing all this week in a series of virtual conversations about movement building and taking our struggle for liberation to the next level. We'll have that conversation. And later on, has Kanye West got to the point of no return? Well, maybe I should change that. Have we gotten to the point of no return with Kanye West? We'll have that discussion. So stay with us, all of that and a whole lot more on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show this afternoon. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. First and foremost, our conversation about where we are with the midterm elections. If you have not created your vote plan, yes, you need a plan to go out and cast your ballot in this national midterm election, a plan that is realistic, a plan that is timely and efficient for you and your families and your friends. Create a vote plan, folks, on when you're planning to go to the polls. This election needs your participation, and we don't want to sit back on our hands, complain about a lot of things, and not at least just do the simple thing of casting a ballot. It's very simple civic engagement exercise. Just throw something in there, just punch a number, punch your choice. Very simple, doesn't take a lot of time. And most importantly, you can feel like, you know what? I added to the conversation. Let me try to be a part of the solution. But this is a critical election, so critical that President Biden put out an op-ed for CNN where he says that America faces a very real choice, a very important choice. 14 days, the American people face a choice, folks. And there are a number of things on the ballot, on the agenda that we need to be aware of, and more importantly, we need to have our say on. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what the president said. Got my culture crew member, my guy, Jules P., who is a hip hop artist, an advocate, and activist who's been working in the community for years. And so we're so happy that he's able to join us today here on The Culture. Jules, what's happening, bro? How you feeling?
What's going on? I'm here.
I hear that. You here? Looking good, man.
Yeah, man, listen, a day off is good. Was about good.
I totally understand, bro. Totally understand. All right, let's talk about first and foremost the president and what he had to say. He actually talked about a number of things, and his piece that he wrote really puts a lot of shade on the Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, as he likes to call them, and talking about just the Republican Party going in the direction of Trumpism. But he put it out there in a lot of ways about what Democrats have done thus far relating to climate control, to inflation, to doing some work towards civil rights and of course, student loan debt. So there's a lot. But here's the other part that I think that is very essential. Take a look at what the president said. He said about the Republican Party. The fact is, this is not your father's Republican Party. Many Republicans in Congress want to pass a national ban on abortion. I would veto it right away. And if we elect more Senate Democrats and keep the House, I'll move to codify Roe v. Wade in January. Wow. Big promise there. Democracy is being put to the test in America. We are learning what every generation has to learn. Nothing about democracy is guaranteed. You have to defend it, protect it, choose it. I'm absolutely confident that just as they did in 2020, the American people will again vote in record numbers and make it clear that democracy is a value that both defines us and unites us as Americans. The stakes couldn't be higher and the choice couldn't be clearer. You might as well just add the hashtag, Jules, hashtag vote blue. Because you know what I mean? But he makes a point. I mean, one of the big issues is around Roe v. Wade with the abortion piece. Some people still believe that even though that has caused a lot of controversy and has given the Democrats some boost, that we still might see what they call a red wave in this upcoming election, both the House and the Senate. Where do you think? What do you think about what the president is putting out there, and more importantly, where we are with the midterms?
So a couple of things. I think that one, I hate talk. Like, so I'm about that action guy. So the talk part kind of turns me off, if that makes sense. Like when people say things, like especially in positions of power, I kind of get turned off because you're already in a position of power to make the change. So you don't have to talk about it. Just say, oh, I've done this, or I'm doing this. Don't say, oh, when we get the House back, then I'll codify Roe v. Wade. Well, we got the House currently, so why hasn't it been done yet? Like, don't talk about it, just do it. Like, I'm not a big person when it comes to politics of somebody telling me something and then me just waiting for it to happen. I want it done. You're already in position. It's not like you're trying to become president. You're already president. We already have the House. So what is the point of talking about saying what I'm going to do or what I can do? But the second part of, just the whole, this is not your, father's Republicans. It's like, yeah, that kind of like nothing has really changed in my lifestyle, my lifetime. I mean, 33 years on this earth. I pretty much seen the Republican Party as I've seen the Republican Party till this day, once I, understood fully their point of view on politics and their endeavors. So it's like, I don't see a real big, I feel like he's just like talking in a circle, just trying to get his, relevancy back, because it's like, okay, it's been quiet. We're mulling over different issues still. There's still so much going on. I mean, day to day in the news cycle, CNN, Fox, whatever you choose to get your news, Black Star Network, whatever you choose to get your news from. It's so much news going on a day-to-day basis. It's hard to really keep up with a story that's not a major story that's affecting an entire nation or an entire planet. So it's just like, at the sense of what he's saying, I mean, I just feel like it's like a relevancy thing. Like, I don't see the need to say anything in this magnitude, because if you're saying, oh, the basis of student loan debt, if you're saying what I've done for civil rights, like, it's already been done. So it's like, okay, we know you've done that. Now we're going to be like, well, what else? Because that was in your first 2 years of your term. Well, the next 2 years is still, up for, determination of how we feel about you. So continue doing the things that you feel. If you feel like you're doing the right thing, then continue doing the right things. But don't say what I can do or what I'm trying to do when you're already in that position of power. Well,
there are some good things that he said, bro. I mean, definitely. I mean, there are some things that he said that he's been working on. Now, here's the thing about politics, right? Some things, like in every administration, things spill over, right? So, for example, you can't claim, like, I think there are certain things like the economy, for example, right?
Right.
If a new president once a new president gets into the office, the economy kind of goes up and down. It can go up and down depending on the policies of the banks, depending on the market, all of the, a number of things. But it's hard for the president, and I always wonder why presidents take claim of certain things like economy, right? Because it goes up and down, right? Like, it depending on the time that a new person gets in the office, comes in. It depends on that. So you can't really say, oh, I made the economy better. The economy was going to get better whether it's a Republican or it may have gotten better if it's a Republican or Democrat. My point in saying all of that is that, so there are certain issues I think that we could say, okay, President Biden is responsible for. Then other issues I think we could say President Biden is kind of reaping the benefits from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. But there are a couple of things that he mentioned in his piece. And I do want to, like I said, the Roe v. Wade, that happened, of course, during his year. So he can make a huge impact with that. And I agree with you on that. Like if they don't do anything else, like the Roe v. Wade is huge. That can make a huge impact. Voting rights. getting back to securing the vote, the Voting Act, making sure the John Lewis Voting Act, making sure these things are in place, right? Like that has to be in place. I think that unfortunately the president dropped the ball on the Policing Reform Act dealing with George Floyd. After it was named after George Floyd. I think the administration dropped the ball on that. You know what I mean? Not really pushing that as much. We may have seen some movement with the climate control. And folks, go to the CNN. You can check it out because the president talks about all of these things dealing with the climate issue. We know student loan debt. I mean, as much as critical as people can get, saying that since it's not 50,000, I mean, 20,000 is still good. 20,000 is okay, fine. We may not get 50, but we can get 20, and that will still help a number of people and families to relieve some debt, even though it's still being fought in court in some states. The Inflation Reduction Act. He said this, and he said, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and this is going back to your point, Jules. He said, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act without a single Republican vote to lock in lower health care premiums for 13 million Americans and lower prescription drug prices for seniors. That's a big win. Mm-hmm. That's a big win. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I wish, and I just wish that sometimes like the president would just go hard and be like, all right, we don't need no Republicans on this because we got the majority right now.
Right.
Let's just run with it because it's good policy. It's good for the American people. 13 million people. And I bet you, Jules, out of those 13 million people, probably got some MAGA Republicans up in that joint that's going to benefit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we can look at that. Of course, we can talk about the building of infrastructure in the country, the building back America, building better. I think it's called Building Back America Better, or something. I don't want to mess up that line, but it's talking about the infrastructure. We need that. I mean, there's some good things that have been done so far. There's certainly some good things that have been done. Of course, our issues have to be determined. Now, our issues are still wrapped up in inflation reduction, healthcare issues, student loans. Yes. We are all wrapped up in that. But for those cornerstone issues, voting, policing, those issues, I think we still need to add some more pressure. But there are some things that the president and his administration, even vice president, has done. The other piece is around HBCUs. Mm-hmm. Vice President Kamala Harris has put it out there that they're going to put some money to secure, to help provide more safety measurements at HBCUs because of that rash of bombings, bomb threats that were happening with HBCUs at the beginning of the year. So there's some good things that have to be done. So I hope people understand, like, this is the way politics is. You're not going to get everything you want. You're going to have to compromise some things, but it doesn't take away from the fact that if you don't think that someone is, whether it's the president or the person representing your state, if they're not speaking to your needs, your interests, your concerns, that's the beauty of voting. You can vote them out, but you got to vote. That's the big thing. You still have to vote, because I think one of my big concerns, Jules, it becomes a numbers game where, okay, on the national, in terms of congressional races, this is the stuff that makes it important. This ain't the presidential race. This is the congressional race. This is state representative. This is local offices. So those votes actually count more so than, they don't have like an electoral college for the state. You know what I'm saying? So your vote actually counts in this situation. Go ahead, Jules. What's your take, though?
So I agree with that. And like the point too about, the things done, that's what I'm saying. Like that resume has already been built. Like I'm 100% behind that. So it's like now you're also still in position of power. So continue making those changes. It's like we live in a social media world. It's no longer I have to read my resume every time I talk. My resume is on Google anytime you Google search my name. My resume is on any of these blog or information websites anytime you're looking at the headline, because my information and what I've done or what I'm not doing is broadcasted as the front headline going as soon as you get onto those pages. So that's the point I'm really making, is like I feel like there's more work to be done. And I also feel like not only for, and I'm just speaking on behalf of in general, not just for a certain culture or a certain group of people. It's like there's like I agree with you 100%. Not everybody's issue is going to get addressed.
No.
Again, in a 4-year term, you're looking at the first probably year of fixing what the last term did. That's basically what this has been. But every time you go from a Democrat to a Republican, it's literally you spend the first year trying to redo, everything that's been done before you, or first year and a half even. It might take that long. Or sometimes in situations like this, it's like, okay, well, seeing Americans struggle, boom, I got it. Let me come up with a student debt relief. Like that's a genius idea that's never been done before. So right now, to me, that's one of his biggest calling cards for as far as his approval for, like, when they do the president's approval rating, that's one of his biggest calling cards, because that's one of the most impactful things, because not only do black people have student debt, but white people have student debt. Everybody, like I don't even want to go to each race and each culture, but everybody has student loan debt. So that was one of your biggest markings. So it's like, okay, continue building off of that, because it's sort of like artists. It's like you can have a couple good songs, but once you get that hit, you got to keep on building off that hit. You can't do one hit and then go right back to another regular song. Once you get that hit, now you're locked and loaded. Let's load up and get another one. Like that's what I look at when I think of Biden. It's like, okay, you got your hit. Now it should be this going forward. It should continue going up now. For each problem need to be addressed, each borough issue need to be handled, things like that of that nature. That needs to be the next step and priority in this term.
That's facts. That's facts, bro. I love that analogy. Let's go to our online culture crew, folks. Post your comments as we continue to have these discussions. Corinna, you checked in. Good to hear from you, Corinna. I always like to hear what you got to say, because you be so serious about yours. You say, look, it annoys me how Biden, Harris, among other Dems, say we just need 2 more senators. No, we need a supermajority, and we must select the 5 black Senate candidates and more. Corinna, you also said we can really hold Biden accountable if we elect a Senate supermajority. It's up to us, the people, to make it happen. I love the way you're thinking on this, Corinna. I think you are absolutely right. I don't want to get a slim margin. Mm-hmm. I want to get an overwhelming margin. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want, and that's the thing, folks. We can't get no slim margins, because slim margin, you got 1 or 2 people, they can flip them. You see that with Manchin and Sinema. You can flip them. Mm-hmm. You get an overwhelming supermajority, as Corinna is saying. Absolutely. You can get that. You can get stuff done. You can get policies made. A lot of stuff can happen. So I love it. Great idea. Real Brooklyn, my guy, you said it's very strange how democracy means the same thing to both parties and the American people, but the divide happens at the bicameral level of the House of Representatives each time laws are made. Yeah. It reminds me, Jules and Real Brooklyn, remember, it's like if all of us see a picture, but we all see different things of the picture, it's one picture, but we all have different interpretations of this one picture. And I think to that point, that's why I'm saying that, like, we have to shift the context. If folks don't vote, like, it's easy to say I voted in the presidential election, but it's much more effective to vote in your midterm election when you have congressional races and local races, because those are the laws that affect you each and every day. Mm-hmm. Those laws that govern your state, those laws that govern your city or your district. I mean, those are the stuff that's the stuff that's so important. The presidential stuff, I feel like, because of the Electoral College, because there's so many, you know what I mean? It's the vote carries a different weight. But in these midterms, the vote carries the weight all the way. Thank you, Real Brooklyn, for posting that. Ming Lee Natasha Serge, you say first they was talking recession. Now I see the depression word being thrown around. It's time to regroup. Have you been hearing that, Jules?
Not too much. Not too much.
I haven't heard depression thrown around.
I've heard
inflation. Everybody's talking about the inflation,
and I've also heard, like, so I haven't heard depression, but I've also am not ignorant. Also know that I've heard that heading back into a recession, but it hasn't been clearly stated out and made yet. So it's like I don't see it yet.
Yeah,
I think that's just somebody predicting it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Great point, Ming Lee. Thank you for checking in. Truth is power. You said we neglect to see the importance of allowing our voice to be heard every time we get people in position. Sherry Beasley, Mandela Barnes, we never take the opportunity to push them across. Why? I think it's because we don't know them we don't know them as much. Mandela Barnes, who's running, who's a brother who has I think he's very genuine in his attempts. But I thought, you could get, it's so weird in this dynamic. This is what I find. It's easier for a candidate to sometimes get national acclaim than local respect. I'm gonna say that again, y'all.
Yeah.
It's sometimes easier to get national acclaim than local respect, right? Because you can jump on. I say, hey, look, case in point, bro. Remember when we had our mayoral race in Baltimore City? Just was that 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing one of our candidates on the Breakfast Club, Stokey. And this brother who's running for city, he was running for the mayor. The seat. Yeah, he was running for the mayor's seat.
Mm-hmm.
He has connections in the hip hop world, but he ended up being on the Breakfast Club talking about his campaign. Right now, he got respect locally, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, people were like, "Oh man, so he running for office in Baltimore City. Oh man, yeah. He got my vote. He got my vote." But at the end of the day, guess what happens? At the end of the day, it's just local. It's just respect nationally. So, it doesn't translate into real votes that can use locally. Jules, what's your take on that, bro?
Yeah, so that point was actually a great point because I remember watching that interview and conducting it. But then when it came down to the actual vote in the city, he wasn't even top 4. So it's like, that was crazy. And it's like, I've been around Stokey, so I seen, the the come up, I should say. And it's
right.
Like, okay, I get it. Like, that was a major look. I always say any publicity for the city of Baltimore in the light of national headlines is a great publicity. So it's like once you go on the Breakfast Club and you're talking about it, it brings light to the issue because also even if you're not the one to be able to fix it, it still focuses the light on something that needs to be addressed. I always say that's a major part. So that's a win in my book anyway for him being able to get that opportunity and go to the Breakfast Club and do that.
And it's good for the culture, but I don't know if it's necessarily good for the role you trying to get into. You know what I mean?
But that's why I always say my biggest pet peeve, and I've said this on numerous occasions, I hate it when my political leaders, while my community activists, and I'm not going to say all of them, but some of them, when they become political leaders, it's like now you get tied up with more that you have to take care of because there's more issues than just what you were focusing on in the community. Whereas when you were in these streets, in these communities, like I am still doing, you're still able to handle everything on that aspect. So your focus is never taken off of that. So I don't have to worry about going to fundraisers. I don't have to worry about what's going on the other side of town. I'm still being able to handle my community and my town as I've been doing. So it's like, it's a catch-22 with this politics game, especially when you're a local leader, because it's like, you can move up that ladder and go to mayor and governor and president. But at the same sense, if the community is like the thing that really holds your heart, you're more impactful in the community. That title don't mean nothing. Once you get that bigger title, that community respects you and loves you more for you hanging in that community and trying to make that way.
Yeah. I it's something, and like I say, I understand the thinking to raise your platform as well, and to raise your namesake. But in certain cities, like Baltimore is one of them cities, like, we are a very locally driven city. We like the hometown hero. We like, we like people who are from the city to lead the city, that type of thing. And all cities, of course, are not like that. Well, most of your cities are like that, but Baltimore is a different place. It's a smaller city. But just the point of, sometimes your profile can kind of like precede you. And that doesn't necessarily always means that you're going to gain the victory. You might gain a little headway, you might gain some love, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to gain that victory. But in this thing right here, the thing about these races is it's going to have to come down to experience. It's going to have to come down to your ability to lead in various capacities. It's going to have to come down to your track record on issues. There's a lot. There's a very local side. This is why I do love the midterms, because it requires us to be we have to know who our local heroes are. Because if you are a local hero, and quote unquote, and I'm just using that term, folks, that you are involved in your community, you use your platform to advocate. If you are in some decision making, the decisions you make are in the best interest of those groups that you work for. I mean, those are the local hero status that puts you in a better position to be able to step into public service in that. So, I mean, that's the thing that I think what I love. The national elections are a little bit different. The local elections, you get to see, you get to feel, you get to really figure out who this person is. So we'll see. I mean, of course, over the next few weeks, Jules, we're going to be talking about this. And of course, I want to let folks know that y'all should tune into to the Black Star Network, because we're going to have more. I mean, trust me and believe when I say this, and I don't think I'm just over talking, coverage upon coverage of on election day from various people from around the country. We'll have our hour of coverage here on the culture, so you don't want to miss what we have to say. Our analysts and our thinkers, and I'm gonna bring Jules back. I'm bringing a whole bunch of folks back to make sure that we cover it down on election day. So we will have to see. But first, let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the latest in Brittney Griner situation. Another development in Russia that is just takes us back. Just takes us back, folks. And as you know, if we've been studying and covering this story, we've been asking, how hopeful we should be. And this latest development is, I don't know, folks. I don't know. So I'm going to share with you what that is. And then in the next hour, we're going to talk about equitable change and what the Wellbeing and Nation Network, the WIN Network, is doing all this week. And having a series of virtual conversations about how we can make lasting change in racial, economic, and other spaces for our people. We'll have that conversation. So stay tuned. A lot is coming at you here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
This is our time, our moment to move forward, Beyond the gun violence, the hospital closures, the unaffordable housing, Brian Kemp's Georgia for the wealthiest few. Stacey Abrams is looking out for every Georgian. She'll invest our $6 billion surplus in the fundamentals, education, healthcare, housing, and a good living, putting more money in your pocket to build one Georgia where everyone has the freedom to thrive.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. First and foremost, if you haven't had a chance to join us in the conversation, make sure you jump in our chat on both Facebook and YouTube as we're streaming live right there. I just absolutely love engaging with all of you in our chats. I'm telling you, so many of you are having so many, we can't really, pull as all of the comments just because of time and everything. But so many of you have so many great points that you're making as we're having these conversations. And I wish that we could always do that, but we're going to be making our way. And I can say this, that we're going to be making our way to incorporate more of what you have to say, because some of you are really, really insightful, provide some excellent analysis. I mean, I'm bringing people to you, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, I need to bring some people from the audience. We need to hear from those folks, man. Just throw a camera in your face and you start going in on these issues. And trust and believe, folks, we are working to get to that place. So trust me, I just thank all of you for being a part of the conversation as we have it. And y'all know who you are. Y'all, there are so many people. I don't want to miss any names. So I'm going to just say my online culture crew, y'all keep the conversation great. And for those who are just tuning in or just jumping into the discussion, I truly, truly appreciate how the community opens the door until you reach the block church. If you get blocked by the online culture crew, don't come screaming at me, because they know the rules. And if somebody is just violating the rules, man, and you got Pastor Damon who's leading the block church, got my people, man, they will block your ass. I love it. I love it. Don't disrespect the role. Don't disrespect the space. We can disagree on ideas, but don't come up in there with no madness now. So big shout out to my online culture crew. Make sure y'all continue to support us here at Black Star Network, because where we are continuing the engagement, you can go to blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. You can support us financially, share the content. So your support matters. You heard what Brother Roland said. Every cent counts. So make sure you check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, check me out. You can follow me on all of my social media platforms at The Real Farajii on IG. I need some new followers. I want to connect. I had my old IG was hacked, and now I'm building up. It took me years. It took me years to get to that place. Then I was mad that my stuff was hacked. So I want to connect with some people that have got some great things to say, that are doing some great things. We can amplify all of the great things that you're doing and so much more. Connect with me at The Real Farajii on IG and on Twitter at Farajii and on Facebook at Farajii Muhammad. I hear that. All right, let's go into the next conversation. Got my culture crew member, Jules P., who is joining us this afternoon as we look at this latest development with Brittney Griner, the WNBA star who has been in prison in Russia over the since February. It's because of her breaking in some cannabis oil that she uses for pain across Russian lines. And as a result of that, she was given a sentence of 9 years. Well, that could potentially change because of some new developments in her case. Now, here's what the Russian court, they said, because they were trying to, her Russian lawyers were trying to appeal the sentence. But according to the reports, take a look at this. A Russian court, they told her that they're going to uphold the 9-year sentence, but they're going to do this with a caveat. The Russian court, they rejected her appeal of her 9-year prison sentence for drug possession on Tuesday of this week, and the court ruled to uphold the sentence handed down to the WNBA star. However, in the ruling, the court stated that the time Griner will have to serve in prison will be recalculated with her time in pretrial detention taken into consideration. 1 day in pretrial detention will be counted as 1.5 days in prison, which means that she will serve around 8 years in prison unless the U.S. and Russia come to an agreement on a potential prisoner swap in the future. Didn't say what part of the future, didn't they say near future, didn't even say distant future, just said in the future. Let's bring in Culture Crew member Jules P back into this. Jules, okay, so she may have to serve 8 years.
All right, I'm not a math major. By far. I'm not the greatest. Maybe trigonometry was the furthest. No, I did calculus in college. So calculus is the furthest I went in school. Okay. So let me do the math.
Right.
Instead of serving 9 years, she's up for 8.
Yeah, she could do 8 years.
Whoop-de-doo. Are we saying that as if that's the positive in this situation? Is that where we're going with this? So instead of 9,
I don't know. I didn't.
The one.
All right. So let me answer that real quick, Jules.
Okay.
There's no positive in this situation.
Okay.
Seriously, there really is no positive. You shed off a year, and I'm not saying that she shouldn't have had a year shed off. I mean, she shouldn't be in prison for that long anyway. But you shed off a year.
I'm in the all right. So I'm in the space of news that doesn't matter. I'll give you an example.
Right.
Today I got a headline from Bleacher Report saying while the team was asleep on the airplane, Russell Wilson was up and down in the airline in aisles doing whatever, leg curl, whatever, some exercise while the team was asleep. I'm like, so what? That's not gonna stop him throwing interceptions every daggone game. So you taking off a year and counting a year and a half as her the 1.5 days, I should say. So counting the 1.5 days she's already served. First of all, she's already been in there too long. But again, that's not my call because again, their law is, whatever she bought, the oil, the cannabis she bought was illegal. And then we went from now uproar, because remember it was a humongous uproar of, oh, this ain't right. It's just for some cannabis oil. They're trying to make an example out of her. And then it's now like, okay, she's actually getting a sentence out of this. And then they're still saying, but, she doesn't have to serve the full sentence if you give us what we want. And what we want is A, B, and C. I mean, of course, we know who they want. They want that Russian arm dealer that we have traded. But then the issue we talked about on the show before, but then you do that, then there's people that's been in prison in Russia that are Americans for a couple of years now. It's like, well, yo, we've been over here serving, like, what's up with that? Like, who's her? Who's she compared to us? Like, she just an NBA player. We real in the field out here. Like, what's going on? Why does she get a pass and get to go home scot-free? So it's going to cause a controversy. My personal opinion, I feel like it's just still utter BS. I don't care what. I feel like there's a way out of every type of situation in this instance because it's like, again, I do see the example that you're trying to make out of her, but yeah. I also see the fact that, you got to understand, people say laws are laws and things like that. Yeah, that's cool. That's all fine and dandy, but it's not like she went over there and robbed a bank. Like that's a different type of crime versus what she's done. So 9 years for cannabis. I mean, how many years you get for an ounce of weed over in the United States? Yeah, I guess it depends.
But we can't use that though. We can't use that metric.
Yeah, I'm saying I know we can't, but I'm just the point I'm making is just thinking about laws in general. So it's like law here versus the law there. It's always going to be a difference. You can't compare the two because, of course, America is 100% different from Russia. But at the same sense, it's like, so what's the biggest crime out there? Then related to what's the crime that she committed? Like, where is that balance that equals 9 years? In a sense, like you actually as a judge sitting there saying, "Oh, yeah, 9 years. That's what you're going to get." Like, I don't see this being whatever. And then on top of that, too, I do respect. The NBA still keeping her name in the forefront because for people that are not sports fans, the WNBA season is over. The WNBA season has been over for about a month now. The Las Vegas Aces won the title. So now that the season is over, they no longer are on the forefront to have the platform to say free BG or everybody wear number 42. And the saddest part about this world in general anyway is not too much is paid attention to women's sports in the general. So the fact that now they're in their off season, it's like now there's going to be complete silence. except for the players that you follow or from the issues you follow, to be a part of this situation, in this conversation. That's why I was going to take more of the NBA players and other leaders to step up and keep that post live, keep the name alive, keep saying it, because right now the offseason of all the women that came together to do something, now their season is completely over. The thought process would be season, it would be she would be back home by now, but it's not. So it's like, damn, all right, now we got to elevate those sisters' voices that now, down there back into their communities doing their thing. They got their issues they're trying to handle on their regular forefront, but they're also still keeping Free BG alive as another issue in their mind. And now we need to elevate those voices and get that situation home.
Hey, but here's the thing, it may require a different strategy, because all of that public pressure, bro, led to, I think, even having the Biden administration putting that proposal of a prison swap on the table, right?
Right.
And I reported it on this show based on the reports that we've been seeing. Russia literally said freeing BG is not a priority.
Right. Right.
and the president has said, unless Putin comes to me and talks to me about it, I'm not going to talk to him. So her appeal didn't go through. The Russian officials are saying, no, it's not a priority, and the president is waiting on Putin. While we're still involved, while he's involved with the war, and we continue to show support for his opponent. Excuse me.
So we're just in a sit and wait game until the different strategies.
And I don't know, like the WNBA can say it, and the NBA can say it. I think that at this point, what more needs to be said? We know what she did. We know what the sentence is. You know what I'm saying? We know all the facts around the case, her case. It's just a matter of you're not. I don't know if we can enforce. We're not going to force Russia's hand on this.
Right.
And they know what they got. They're going to play it. They're going to play this card until it's out. The unfortunate part about it, and now we got to ask her wife, Brittney's wife, like, hey, what else do we want to do? And I keep going back to this point, but I've been really like banging my head against the wall. Like, what else do we do?
Right.
What do we do? Because I don't want to see the sister. I mean, the way they describing her state of mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like she's really feeling it. She's really starting to feel forgotten, and they're not even allowing her, according to her lawyers, and even she said, I can't even talk to my own family. So this is not even talking just about, connecting with us as her supporters. It's talking about she's not able to talk to her family on a regular basis. And so, you imagine you across the water, you're in a foreign space, you're in prison, you've already been sentenced, and now you can't even talk to the people that you love that are closest to you to keep giving you the energy. I'm really concerned, man. I'm really concerned.
I'm super concerned in her personal being. So now let's take the politics out the way. Let's take Russia versus United States out the way. Yeah. I'm concerned for the sister for her natural being. One, she's not short. She's tall. The confinements that she's in is not built for athletes. Let's start there. So the jail confinements, the imprisonments that they're keeping her in, is not a comfortable setting. I'm pretty sure the bed's not big enough. I'm pretty sure the room's not big enough to accommodate her. So that's one. So now you're taking a physical damage to your body. We're talking about an athlete. So then you're taking the weight of the world. You can't have any contact with your family, can't have any contact with the outside world. You're in a whole different country. You're not even in. This is like all the movies you watched growing up as a kid. It's like this is her real life. She's trapped as a prisoner in another nation. She's not in, like, she's not like she's like, oh, she plays for Phoenix, but she's in jail in New York. No, she's not even in the States. She's in a whole nother nation with no contact, with no communication, or minimal bare communication. The sister's mindset, and let me put this out there too, because when she comes home, because I'm still going to ride that train. When she comes home, the sister's mind state is not going to be the same.
No,
I don't see her playing basketball probably the first 2 years. Like
she's not, bro.
It's not going to be there. She can't deal with that. It's going to be it's going to be impossible to focus on anything.
She probably won't even be able to play ball again. I mean, she's probably going to try.
I think but that was the fear I had. I'm like, yo, as good as she is, I was like, yo, I think her mindset, and like I said, when she's coming home, I'm speaking that positivity into the sister. When she comes home, I don't think she's gonna play ball no more.
No, but she's gonna have. I see her playing the same role as Kat, and I see her going more toward using her experience, her platform for social justice. Like I feel like if she comes home, and I'm saying I really hope she gets home. You know, it'll take less than a year, right? That's what I'm hoping, right? I'm saying realistically, right? But if she even serves anywhere close to 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know, I mean, as an athlete, you know, I mean, those skills and those talents not being worked on day in and day out as you used to, it kind of falls to the wayside. You're not going to be able to get back in.
Right.
And I could see her being an ambassador for the WNBA. I could see her using her platform to talk about, you know what I'm saying, you know, cannabis and helping athletes. But she may not get back on that hardwood as she did.
Right.
You know what I mean? And here's the other thing. She's still going to be well regarded. She's still going to be super respected. She still is going to be held to a high esteem because of her experience. So her star is going to shine brighter than it does now.
Right.
But this is the rough patch. This is the rough patch that she's in. All right, let's take a couple of comments from our online culture crew. Pookie-san, you said we as international players have doping tests randomly. And if you fail, then you're fired. I have seen players like DJ Cooper got fired because her drug test revealed she was pregnant. Hey, but again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. We already know what she did. She already know what she did. At this point, we're talking about when she coming home. Truth is power. You said, and make sure that you know that it wasn't just Brittney Griner that they were going to release. It was the other prisoner that's over there that Anthony Blinken was going to get released also for one. Yeah, you're talking about Paul Whelan. But he's been over there for years.
That's
He's been over there for years. And his family still, I mean, I think he was a young man. He was serving in the military. So that's the other thing. Trayvon Real, my guy, you said, here's my question. If Trump can bring back so many, why can't Biden bring her back? Couple of things.
They're not America.
Well, a couple of things. We weren't going to war with Russia.
Right. That was his ally.
Say it for the people in the chat.
Putin and Trump were like,
Trump's relationship with Putin is much different than Biden's relationship with Putin.
Like the movie Step Brothers.
It's just different. You're not going to do that. So people say, well, Trump would have got her home. Yeah, he may have because of his personal relationship.
Right.
But he would have gotten her home at what expense to the American people?
Mm-hmm.
So we put him in office because he would have gotten her home, and yet he's still committing probably some form of high treason and espionage because he's so buddy with a leader that America deems as being its enemy. I mean, he could have gotten her home, but at what expense?
At what expense?
You know what I'm saying? Like, do we want? You know, and this is not necessarily our water to carry. I'm just saying to the American people, to those in the intelligence community, to those who are in, you know, the Congress. Do you want your president buddying up with a guy like Putin?
Right.
You just blasted this dude. You just blasted it. And Trump probably said, yeah, I could have got her home. But again, when we look at Trump, you can say, well, he could have did this situation better or that situation better. But you can't take Trump in pieces. You got to take all of them. If you put that man back in office, you got to take the whole situation with him. He might have been able to make this better or make that better. But at the end of the day, is his whole situation good for the collective?
Hey, Farajii.
Yo.
He'd have traded Brittney Griner for like 2 nuclear missiles in the Los Angeles Lakers.
Right. You know what I'm saying? He did some wild stuff, bro. He would have done some wild stuff. A. King, you said all people who travel abroad need to have a clear understanding of the rules. Again, we know that.
Yeah, well, that's here.
That's a given. That's a given. Shalinda, you said if the U.S. paid women players like the men players, she wouldn't have been there. That's a great point, but that's Monday morning quarterbacking. We know that. I mean, maybe the WNBA, maybe that's the move the WNBA needs to make at this point. Karen, my sister, you said, I am sorry for Brittney and concerned for her mental health. Unfortunately, the consequences for Black people are always different and more severe. We have to use emotional intelligence to avoid these situations. Facts. I get it. I totally get it, folks. And you're right, Karen, we do. So this is a cautionary tale, I think, for all of us as we look at this situation. Let's figure out what the next strategy. I wish we would, and I'm serious. I'm gonna reach out to Chanel, her wife, again. I reached out to her, didn't hear nothing back. Like, we need to know what is the best way to handle the situation, because I don't want to see our sister just losing hope, man. Just losing hope. And we'll certainly keep you folks posted on her situation. Look, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's have a conversation about equitable change and how we can go about making lasting legacy changes right now. We're going to be talking to some of the folks from the WIN Network, which stands for the Wellbeing in the Nation Network, as they're having a series of virtual conversations all throughout this week to talk about how asking the question, how might we sharpen movement strategy for lasting change? We'll have that conversation up next. And then later, let's talk about Kanye West, and not talking just about what he said anymore, but more importantly, the impact of everything. We'll talk about the corporate ties that have decided to break ties with the artist. We'll talk about, has Kanye West gone too far, even for us? So that's the big question I'm gonna post. I have on the table about his situation now. Stay with us. Those discussions is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. It's time for us to jump into our second hour, which is where we start this conversation about equitable change. Now, there is a leading national organization by the name of Wellbeing in the Nation Network, WIN, who is hosting an interactive and engaging virtual series of free events starting on October the 24th and continues all the way through the 28th, themed, How Might We Sharpen Movement Strategy for Lasting Change? This is the big question that serves as the center of the discussion, that will focus on innovative strategies to address racial justice and equitable well-being economy and the right to voice and vote for everyone. Now, here to talk to us about Win Week and the importance of Win Week, we have two sisters, Samava Sahar, who serves as the executive lead for the Win Network, and Malika Berry Rogers, who is from Black Girls and Women's Consortium. Samava and Malika, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're also going to be, I want to bring in my culture crew member, Jules P., so we can have him into the conversation as well. But first, let's start with you, Samava. Let's talk about the work of WIN and your role. You serve as the executive lead. What does that mean, and what is WIN all about here?
So the Wellbeing in the Nation Network was formed with this idea that there were so many groups trying to move these, what we think of as intractable problems, right? That we live in a system of structural racism, of classism, of capitalism that takes advantage of Black, Indigenous, Latinx, migrant, and other bodies for its own gain, of poor bodies for its own gain, and begins to say, what would it look like if instead of all these different groups, some from different racial groups, some from different economic groups, some from different sectors, if instead of all of us working separately, what if we actually came together across hundreds of organizations to say, not just what are we doing today or even just this election cycle, but what would it look like for us to change those systems to create lasting change that would see itself over generations.
So 2 days ago, Samava and Malika, WIN started this series of virtual conversations, right? Yeah. And looking at that big question, how might we sharpen movement strategy for lasting change? I want to talk a little bit about, these virtual sessions and what's been happening thus far. And then, taking it from that, from that narrow view to the larger view, because this is happening, of course, with the backdrop of the upcoming election, with conversations about a number of various social economic justice issues. This is coming at a very, very critical time. So let's talk about these virtual sessions first. What's been happening over these past couple of days? What's been discussed? Malika, I'd like to hear from you for that.
Well, actually, I will be joining the group on Thursday to talk about the intersection or the section of the ecosystem that I'm a part of, which is Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium. When we think about what we're doing right now with voter education and voter rights and voter engagement, we cannot deny the role that Black women and Black women leaders have played in the South in making sure that we not only ignited the movement for humanity and justice with Rosa Parks, but we continued it. And we affirmed our voice with Fannie Lou Hamer. And then we continued this idea around nonviolent social change with Coretta Scott King. Women in the South have actually been at the forefront of leadership. And so we are at Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, where I'm the executive director. We are firmly in agreement with the approach that WIN is taking, that a collaborative approach, an ecosystem approach to these systems that layer on top of each other to suppress and oppress people of color is exactly the way that we can topple the systems and rewrite, revision, reimagine a way that we can all live with our humanity intact. And so I will actually defer to Samava to kind of talk about what's at the beginning of the week, but that's the role that I'm coming to share with the group this week on Thursday.
Awesome. Samava?
Yeah, so we started the week with this amazing collection of people from all parts of the ecosystem, because part of what we said is, what if more people than just those who care about equity and racial justice were joining in this movement together? And so you had people from business, people yesterday who were talking about an equitable economy, who were impact investors who were taking indigenous practices around a restorative economy and putting those into practice. People working on things like the broadband sector and the Federal Reserve, and saying, could the community development sector, how could it play a role in restoring wealth in communities that don't have it? And today we had groups, for example, in the Wind Measurement Cooperative, where we heard about sidewalk equity in Boston and how data warriors were using data to drive a shift in the balance of power and resources, so that resources were going directly to the communities that were experiencing inequities, rather than just asking and requiring and saying, please, can we have what we need? This was about people rewiring the system in real time, using data and policy change to be able to do that. And that's, I think, the power of WIN, is it brings together a really intersectional movement to the task.
So is this mostly women, or is this a collaborate? And I'm just asking. So I know some folks, tuning in, they're like, so is it a women thing, or is this for everybody?
It's for everybody. But there's some good women in charge.
So if you got a problem with the women in charge, don't work.
This is not the right. But there are lots of amazing men who are actively leading different pieces of this movement, and I think that's what's amazing. And it's today we were talking, for example, Don Hunter was talking about the voting index, and connecting that public good voting and the engagement of people in voting and civic engagement is actually good public health. It actually improves health outcomes. And Ramandeep Josen, a youth and computer science urban planner, was talking about how they'd use data in totally different ways. And then tomorrow we're talking about the right to vote in voice, and have businesses who are giving employees their not just time off to vote, but time off to go work the polls in communities that have been disenfranchised. So you have the same conversation, like major business leaders reaching hundreds of businesses and millions of employees in the same room with people with Janine Abrams-McLean of Fair Count, or Malika Berry Rogers, or Latosha Brown, or Anjanou Ellis. It's really, what does it look like when we put these pieces together and understand that voting, health, belonging, civic muscle, our social contract with one another is all of our responsibility to work on.
Sister Malika, when we have these conversations, I'm going to post this question, get your response, and I'm going to bring Jules. I want you to discuss your thoughts. But when we have these conversations, and I love having like these organic, coalition building discussions. Years ago, I used to run a nonprofit that Jules was a part of, called New Light Leadership Coalition. And one of the things we brought young people from across the country, mostly in the Mid-Atlantic region. We had hundreds of young people to come together to discuss issues. And as powerful as I know that those opportunities are, and as important that they are, the overriding concern in the back of my mind has always been, how far are we going to be able to get these good ideas from the grassroots level and put them forward to the decision maker, to the major decision makers. And so that's always is at the core of my thinking when we have discussions like this. Something that is so powerful, like when you have these virtual sessions, you're having like very, very authentic and organic and very solution-oriented discussions. But how far, it just seems like there's a disconnect still in getting these solutions as part of the major platforms of political parties, decision makers, getting in front of decision makers to make sure that they incorporate even a tenth of what was discussed at these conferences. So how do we kind of reconcile that? How do we break through this wall, Sister Malika?
So I would offer that what I think you're watching is an evolution. You're watching the evolution of where we know, let me try it from a different perspective. We have a vision of where we know we want to be, and we're taking the steps to get there. What we want in our most urgent needs is for those things to happen immediately. But that is not how it happens. This is the work of generations. This is not the work of one generation. This is the work of all of us together. And so what you're looking at is the urgency of the moment, the absolute need right now, but actually what we're doing is taking steps toward that. And I might offer a little bit of hope, at least this is the hope that fuels me. I might offer that the very existence of the WIN network and those people with position, power, and authority to not only envision these ideas, reimagine what it might be, but also have the ability in corporate sectors and public health sectors and philanthropy and in nonprofits to be able to put some of those decisions in place. We are, in fact, then the labs that allow public personalities and our elected officials to watch what we are doing and to prove that it is actually actionable. It will move the needle. And that way they can then follow us. I think what we are learning right now is we set the pace and then they follow. What we have been stuck in for some time is waiting for our elected officials to do more for us. What we have to be able to do, and what the WIN network and all of the members of the WIN network do, is actually begin to set the pace and say, watch us. This is how you do it. If you want to know how to do it, watch us do it. And then they can put that into action on a legislative level. Now, I'm not going to deny at all that we need legislative wins. We need politics. I don't want to shy away from that at all. But I don't know that the impetus of a good idea comes from the legislative branch. I think the impetus of a good idea comes from the coalitions like the WIN Network and organizations like you started, because that's where we see what the solutions are closer to the ground and who's driving those solutions and how we might then expand and scale those solutions for the betterment of all people of color.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get this thought, and then Jules, I'm going to you. Real Brooklyn, my guy, you checked in and said, is Black this and Black that a part of the problem? I understand the reasons and why we have our own, but change consists of inclusivity, and some are not critical thinkers to know the difference. I love that question, Real Brooklyn. I love that question because I often, ask myself, like, okay, are we shooting ourselves in the foot when we just think about not even just Black, this is where any group of people just think about themselves in this day and time where we're all facing huge challenges, right? If we're all, and trust and believe, I'm an advocate that some things Black folks need to do on their own. Trust and believe, I understand it. But I'm also an advocate that other groups of people need to speak out for their interests, right? But should this be the approach for everything? Versus just a couple of things here, a couple of things there. So Marva, I see you, you're like shaking your head and you look like you. Please, what's your take on that?
I think that we need to reclaim the beauty that's been lost from Black, Indigenous, Latinx communities. And part of being in an intersectional movement isn't for me to speak for and appreciate and support what I need for, let's say, Indian Americans. I'll just claim my particular group. But for me to love and appreciate what Black and Indigenous and Latinx and others, and even I'm going to say poor white people, like, have to offer, like, what is it that each of these groups bring? Yeah. That we can begin to create where we can be back in love with one another, where we can see the gifts that we all lost when we took this idea of race and owned it. It's not about not appreciating Black excellence and Black love. In fact, we've been funding a campaign called Keep Black Love Alive, because we think that reclamation of love for ourselves and for one another is part of how we restore an equitable democracy.
Absolutely.
Part of what WIN brings us back in proximity with each other so that we can reclaim what we've lost. And for me, watching what Black movement leaders and Indigenous movement leaders have gained from one another in the conversation, when people hear the stories of those who are migrant workers and how they've been resilient, it's amazing to see what's happened as they've come together and begun to say, who might we be together, and what do we envision for this country together? We're reclaiming.
Absolutely. Jules, what's your take, bro?
So a couple pointers. One, I love the idea of it being a network, because the thing about a network is it brings different aspects and different contributions that now you're able to spread. So when you have a network, not only are you able to build up the brand or to build up the movement that you have, but then you're now a resource to others trying to get involved, or to people that don't have a clue and they need help and need more information on trying to get, what to do in their communities, or, what's going on with voting rights and what's going on with the oppression of others. Now you're the resource, you're like the encyclopedia for all others. So that's point number one. Point number two was brought up by Farajii, and I was interested in the response because now that I've been a part of organizations and movements, and seeing the information being passed on to elected officials or through legislation, and it's kind of sort of like, now I'm of the mindset, now I've been through it, I'd rather be on the level of still my network and my brand and our organization and our movement being just that, and not having a political tie to it. And the reason I say that is because elected officials at minimum 4 years. Well, after that 4 years, they're gone. Somebody else moves in. They don't know nothing about the organization, or they weren't a part of what was by the previous election term. They're just going to go and do their own new thing. So the thing I love about your movement, thing I love about your network is keeping it the way it is. And then now you're going to continue to be in-house. Nobody can come and take over. Like it's always going to be resourceful and guided. And that's the thing I learned from being in my movements and different organizations I was a part of. So I commend both of you ladies, because I was very, very keen to that answer that, he asked, because that's something that we dealt with. And, it was like, trying to get that legislative tie, trying to get that political tie for New Leadership Coalition is like at the end of the day, it's like, bro, we were better without it anyway. Like we were moving. If we had the people that knew about it, that's fine as far as legislators, but if not, we were still affecting so many lives and so many communities, and that's the part that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. Sister Malika, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Farajii, I wanted to also respond to that. One of the things that I think I'd love to be able to ground this conversation in a very little bit of history, just a very thin layer, in that when Black people stand for themselves, we actually usher in the systems and processes for freedoms of others like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if we did the work, a very thin layer of history, just 50 to 60 years back, we look at the Civil Rights Act. What it then opened up was the American with Disabilities Act.
Mm-hmm.
Opened up a conversation about women's rights. And so I want us to understand that claiming our humanity is what, when we name a thing who we are, we remind people, and ourselves included, that our humanity is more than our skin color. And if we then act on our humanity, we usher in places for other humans to be fully and completely themselves. We have, as a Black people in a movement, never walked through a door that we didn't already then open the door for others to come with us. If you look at just a thin layer of history, if you look briefly back at those coalitions that worked together for the civil rights movements, you will see rabbis, you will see Episcopal priests, you will see faith leaders and Southern Baptist faiths as well. And you will see those people who are of Indian descent because of Gandhi. I want us to understand that this has never been just a Black movement, but when we reclaim our humanity, we can do more for everybody else. This is about responding to the things that have been used to harm us and to claim them for ourselves. We are Black people. There's no shame in that.
I mean, no, it's no shame in that. And I'm so happy that you did just share with us that little bit of history, sis, because it's important to understand that coalition building does not necessarily mean anti-Black. And you know, and I'm only stating that just because sometimes even among Black folks, we're like, well, why are we connecting with them? We got our own problems. And it's like, I get that. Trust and believe. I totally get that. But at the end of the day, if you have, it's a numbers game. In this country, white people make up the majority and everybody else fall underneath of that line. But if you have a coalition of groups of people who have all suffered under the system of white supremacy, who've all suffered under the system of institutional racism and you know, inequitable issues, then why not connect? Why not build a coalition? Why not create a whole, and I love what you sisters both have said, this ecosystem, and it speaks back to what Dr. King talked about, this ecosystem of justice. Mm-hmm. Why not work toward an ecosystem of justice? And I think, Sister Malika, to your point, you're making an excellent point, that when Black folks are able to address the issues, then other people gain the benefit as well. And we know that. We know that. But for some things, numbers mean a lot. And in organizing and advocacy work, you need numbers. And there are, you know, I'm in the city of Los Angeles, for example. So we're seeing that there are efforts by people who have been oppressed from the Latino community, who have become voices of hate, voices of racism, you know what I mean, that will create fissures of division between Black and brown communities, right? And so we as a groups of people, we have to figure out like how, you know, getting past those things, because just because you Black, just because you're part of a smaller marginalized group of communities, Sister Samantha, you said you're part of the Indian American community, doesn't necessarily mean you naturally are thinking about all oppressed. And so there's still like a lot of work, I think, sisters, that need to be done to even get people to see that, guess what? Black people ain't the only ones suffering. Black people, we've been taking the brunt, we've been taking the hits. But guess what? If Black people are put in a position where we can empower ourselves so that way we can move forward on some of these issues, everyone else will gain. Like our history, our struggle is the blueprint of how to make positive gains. Sister Samantha, what's your take?
So I'll say something from my faith tradition. I'm a Baha'i, and that I think really builds on what you both are saying. So Farajii and Malika, which is that idea that we all hold, every people holds a piece of the puzzle that's needed for the healing of the world. So that coming together isn't only about shared pain or even only about shared power, which is both of which is important, but this idea that we're interconnected, that when we put our pieces of the puzzle together, we are more abundant together. It's not about losing our Blackness or our Indian Americanness or Latin. It's not about that. It's actually about understanding that when we have those pieces together, we can see the whole picture together and be more abundant, more visionary together. And I think that's what I hear you talking about, Malika, in that when Black people own their nobility, their wholeness, their capacity to lead, we all gain. Absolutely. And it's about each of us knowing that, believing
absolutely,
and working toward that, because it's a means for our own liberation.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's real liberation. One of the quotes that just popped into my head, and so forgive me if I've paraphrased it improperly, but Dr. King said, "I cannot be what I ought to be if you are not who you ought to be." So that's
exactly it.
If we are not in a place where we could stand up, and I've said this several times in our conversation already today, but our humanity, I think when you started, Farajii, the top of our conversation as I was listening to some of the earlier segments, but you started today and will continue today to talk about the way that I hear it is the politics of others, making people others, rather than what Samava and WIN Network are doing is making this the practice of collectivism, practice of togetherness, right? And so it is a huge change for us to not participate in what others, someone, but participate in recognizing their humanity. And many of these laws and rules actually have us point fingers at distinctions and differences and make those issues rather than particular places of appreciation. And we have to be careful not to do that, not to to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jules, I think this opens up the door, the conversation about clarifying what our political interests are. You know, when you're working in a collective, and you and I have both worked in a number of coalitions, and I know for me personally, when I'm sitting around the table with folks that don't look like me or didn't come from the same place that I came from, I learn, I grow. My view of humanity becomes broader, you know what I mean? And my passion and my commitment to justice, to social justice, economic justice, and all of these other things becomes stronger because now I'm starting to see the humanity of it. What about you, Jules? What's your take on that?
I mean, that's always been my mindset. Like, I feel like when I go in with a focus for an issue, then the humane aspect takes over. So sometimes it can lead you to a better path than what you're actually focused on, because we don't have all the answers. We just, have an inkling of what the problems are based off what our lifestyles have been, what we came up on, whether our culture, whether our skin color, but we don't know all the issues that, pertain to us, because some of our issues are different based on our living situations and backgrounds. So it's like, once I get involved in these different organizations, my humane aspect kicks in more than what my purpose and sole, function of trying to change, to motivate me, because now I understand a different side of a human life, a different side of a human encounter, a human experience that I wasn't able to achieve or gain or having a personal experience to relate from. So now that kicks in and allows me to lead in that way to help them and gain in their situation and interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me take a couple of comments from our online culture crew sisters as we have this conversation. Will NC100. Will, my guy, you said we are a collective, and that's something we just have to learn to accept and learn to work together. Absolutely. Absolutely. Will, thank you so much for checking in. Mike V, you say BIPOC, Black, Indian, people of color already exist. It works just fine for coalition building on the political and social justice front. And I do, Mike, I do agree with you, bro. But, we got to work together to the point, and I don't know, Samava, Malika, if y'all both are in this space or if this is a part of the conversations with WIN Network and the other groups that y'all are working with, but to produce, not just working together, but to produce candidates that reflect those values. Producing candidates, we talked about in the city of Detroit, for example, we have a gentleman who's not a part of the Black community, but who is the Democratic nominee for a predominantly Black city, and how it has created a lot of tension and embarrassment and all of those things in a predominantly Black city. So when we're talking about when we get these networks and coalition efforts together, it's like now we have to produce the change that we want to see in the system. We got to produce the people that we want to see reflect that comes directly out of these spaces. I mean, it would be amazing. I don't know. I'm not throwing nothing extra on you, Samava, but I'm saying, as the power of women leadership that's running this network and connecting, getting some powerful women to come out of the WIN network to run if necessary. I don't know. Is that a part of the discussion?
They already are, because
all right, boom. Check me on that. Check me on that. Well, talk to me about that.
Oh, wow. You got to check out Luana Gelzer. And there are people running in every place. So I think our work, even though while our focus is intergenerational, it's also immensely practical. And that meant that in the last couple of years, we activated communities across Black, Indigenous, people of color, low-income white, minority communities all across the country to mobilize and build civic capacity to immunize themselves to both meet the needs of our communities today and build the civic capacity we need to not be in the same situation we were in the pandemic in the future.
Right.
And that meant directly investing in connecting with one another in our local communities and growing the leadership we need that can create real change in the systems. And so that growing of leadership and that taking on, along with bringing one of the things that's really unique about WIN is it's truly a grassroots to grass tops network. Mm-hmm. So you have federal agency heads sitting alongside communities. It's actually what federal agency heads say. It's one of the only places they can hear directly from local communities about what's going on for them and what they need from each other to work collaboratively on what it takes to change the system.
Absolutely.
And I think that's it's enacting leadership at every level. Enacted to run for office, to take positions of influence, and then to use that position well so that you're actually doing the work that moves the needs of communities forward and liberates communities to
Absolutely. That's awesome to hear. Awesome to hear. Karen, you checked in and said, we must unify and stick together and follow the organizing examples of our ancestors. I think, to your point, Karen, we're seeing that. And I would wholeheartedly agree. Here are a number of moments in our history that we can kind of look at. I'm remembering Judas and the Black Messiah, that movie about the great Fred Hampton. Absolutely. And I did not know how much Fred Hampton really appealed to not just Black folks. He appealed to the Latino community. He appealed to poor whites. He appealed to some Asians. And how he was really, which added to his influence and power, he was able to bring these folks to the table. He was able to speak their language when he was talking about power to the people. When he took the Black platform of the Black Panther movement and was able to show how other groups of people can grasp hold on that same platform without losing themselves. That's absolutely genius. And he was a young man doing it, but he's had the vision to see that. And a lot of those brothers in it, Huey Newton and others, they saw it because they saw the humanity of their platform and not just the color of one's skin or the socioeconomic background. And that is powerful. That's powerful to us. And that's even threatening to the enemy of our rise. So I think that's very, very powerful. But back to your point, Karen, we definitely need to take a look at that. Ladies, we got a few moments left, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Samava, what's the next step? We got a couple of days left in this WIN Network virtual series. How can people contribute? One of our loyal watchers, Truth is Power, said at the beginning of this conversation, how can I help? How can I give? What can we do to support? What can we do?
Yeah, well, first of all, go to winnetwork.org, WIN network.org, and come join us for the fall WIN Week. We'd love to have you join the conversation. Sign up and we'll reach out to you and ask you to be part of this. You know, I'm sitting as executive lead, but this network is led in with distributed leadership with the Chromatic Black as one of the core organizations on the implementation team of the WIN Network, and the leadership team that's making this happen. And so this isn't just a place that's welcoming of Black people. This is a space that's co-led by Black people. And I just invite you to be part of that leadership together, because it's when we all invest together, that's when we make real change happen. We need you. We need your ideas. We need your movement strategies as we shape the next part of the movement together.
And again, at the winnetwork.org, is that correct?
That's right. WIN-network, 2 N's, .org.
WINNetwork.org, WINN network.org.
Yes.
I want to make sure. Yeah, okay. Great. Awesome. And Sister Malika, let's talk about your group, the work that you're doing with the Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium. How can people get more information about the work that you're doing?
They can visit us at southernblackgirls.org, or they can see me on Thursday as part of the WIN Network, where we'll be talking about the legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer and what that means for Southern Black women and what her stand meant for democracy in 1964 and the democracy that we have today, as part of the celebration of the film Fanny, where actress Ingenue Ellis portrays Fannie Lou Hamer. So we will be in conversation with her, with the writers and executive producers of the film, to have some of those conversations with where we foreshadow, where we kind of take from history and move it forward, and talk a lot about some of the very same topics we've talked today about voting, engagement, coalition building, and leadership. So they can join us on Thursday. Go to the WIN Network and find us there.
Beautiful website. I'm on the site right now, southernblackgirls.org. Wonderful website. Keenan and Ariel, let's pull us their website as well, Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium. They got the Black Girl Dream Fund. I love it. I'm loving it. Love it. I actually love it. Look at this, folks. If you want a Truth is Power, if you want to support, if you want to show some love to Black girls and women, and the work that they're doing to empower the next generation, definitely check out southernblackgirls.org. Sisters, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today, to have this conversation. And, Samava, I'm expecting some big things. Please add us to your resource list so we can continue to have these conversations and hopefully get more people involved and engaged with the work of WIN. And let's continue to build the movement as we're fighting white supremacy and so many social ills that's holding us back and holding this country back from being the better place for Black, brown, and all people in this world. So thank y'all so much for the great work y'all are doing.
Thank you so much for having us, Farajii. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about Kanye West. I'm going to make this a short conversation with Jules. Yeah, I don't want to keep talking about this guy. But we do need to talk, and I'm asking the question, is Kanye West at the point of no return with himself, with the culture, with us? We'll have that conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196. Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
All right, folks, welcome back. Final conversation I wanted to have today is about Kanye West. Yeah. We did need to, figure out what's going on here. Because Mr. West, aka Ye is experiencing some major fallout right now. Corporations have decided to sever its ties with the artist, the fashion designer, as a result of statements he made about Jewish people, what they deem to be, anti-Semitic statements, saying that he's gone too far, essentially. Now, who are the corporations that are deciding to walk away from the house of Ye? Let me go down the list, folks. Gap, Foot Locker, Adidas, Balenciaga, CAA. That is the talent agency, major talent agency in the industry. JP Morgan Chase, which is a bank that already was deciding to cut ties with Kanye and the Yeezy brand before he made his anti-Semitic statements. But now they definitely happy that they were able to cut ties with him. And MRC. Now, MRC is another company that is a Hollywood financier here in LA, major broker in LA. So they decided to cut ties with Ye as well. So those are just some of the corporations. Then you have a couple of major law firms that is deciding to walk away from Ye as a result of his statements. And folks, let me just say, the people have been releasing snippets of what was actually said, because he said what he said on Twitter, right? But he really goes in on that now infamous Drink Champs episode where he talks about everybody and then damn near their grandmother. But he really goes in talking about Jewish people on that Drink Champs episode that people are just cutting out because Revolt TV has decided to pull the episode as a result of his take on the George Floyd murder. And so this is the major fallout. Let's bring in hip hop artist, activist, culture crew member Jules P back into this, because I'm asking the question, Jules, is he pretty much at the point of no return? Are we at the point of no return with this guy? Is he at the point of no return with himself and, of course, the culture? Why you got that look on your face, Jules?
Because I told you so.
What you sell? Wait a minute. What you? Oh, this sound like a Shannon Sharp approach that you about to take. What do you mean you told me so? What did you tell us, Jules?
Conversation last Wednesday, and
a couple of weeks ago?
Not the same exact conversation, but we had a discussion about this, about the whole Drink Champs interview. And
right. Oh yeah.
I literally stated, this is what happens when you take advantage of somebody who's in a mentally unstable or whatever y'all call him, or who's out of his God-loving mind. Let's call it what it is. I'm not dealing with mental health issues. What happens when you take somebody that's not in their God-living mind, and you know they're not in that state, but then you give them a platform to speak even more stupid stuff. This is what happens. I told you so. I said this all this last week. I told you so. As far as Ye, I mean, I'm not chairman of the cancel culture. I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't care about cancel culture.
I'm not chairman of the.
I mean, at this point, you know, you get what you deserve. Like, as far as us as a culture canceling him, it's like I can't make that decision, bro. Like, I've seen people still talking about buying Yeezy, so it's like I can't make that decision for other people. I just can't do it.
All right, so here, I'm glad that you said that, right? Because we can't make that decision. Like, I don't even feel like there is a cancel culture committee, because the stuff I think that we should cancel, the people and the things I think we should cancel, people fighting for. So I'm kind of like stepping away from trying to dictate to other people what they should cancel and what they should not cancel, what should be acceptable and what should. I'm just going to ask the question: is it good for the culture? If it ain't good for the culture, and when you really think about this stuff, if it ain't good for the culture, then we shouldn't accept it. But I'm gonna just that's my approach. Put this information out there. Then my only question is this good for the culture? Now, here's the thing. You're talking about the cancel culture thing, right? If we look at, and there's a great piece that the Washington Post just printed about, this is where this question is coming from, talking about, is Kanye West at the point of no return? Are we at the point of no return? Because there's a great piece in the Washington Post that came out about this, looking at his whole career. And when you do a look at his whole career and the number of things he said, from the time he said George Bush doesn't care nothing about black people when he was doing that, and then all of the stuff that he said, one of my big pet peeves is not just the fact about you just saying things without truth, not knowing the full truth. My pet peeve is, are you doing all of this for yourself, or are you trying to do this for other people? And it's hard for me to identify, Jules, a moment when he says something to the effect of, hey, black designers don't have a say in this industry. Every time Kanye West talks, he's talking about what he himself personally have undergone, the trials of his personal life, the trials of his personal brand, the trials of him personally not getting into certain spaces and certain circles. I'm not hearing from Ye where he's saying this is why black folks are always marginalized. This is why black folks are at the bottom. I'm not hearing that language. I'm hearing why they ain't gonna let me in though.
Okay, so you said we're gonna have a quick conversation, and I tried to
make it quick.
Listen,
we're gonna have to set the show down, but
I try to just ignore this dude. I try to act like he doesn't exist, but now you angered me real quick with the thought that I gotta say. So here's
we can't act like the man don't exist. He's a cultural figure.
He is not paying my mortgage, Farajii. I don't care about this man.
Wait, but look, all right, I get that. But no, let's keep it real. We pocket watching him. We money watch. We money clocking him. Everybody's talking about he ain't no billionaire no more. Oh, yes, he is. He still got this. He still got that. The Adidas deal was only $250 million. That's 10% of what they would lose. If that's just 10%, Adidas can find somebody else, even though they earned them $2 to $3 billion. Adidas can. I think Adidas will be fine.
That's the point I'm making. So you're as Ye. When we went to that infamous Sway interview years ago, and Sway was trying to tell him to do these things on your own. Stop trying to look for the buy-in to these big white corporations and then going on blast rants about how they did you wrong and how they're not looking out for you and other like he told you the blueprint from jump. It's kind of sort of like being, it's kind of sort of like you in high school trying to always go at the pretty girl, going at the high school cheerleader. And she don't want you, but you're going to keep on going at her. You're going to keep on going at her. You're going to keep on going at her. And it's like, bro, like, she don't want you. You're forcing yourself into a situation. So then when you get into that situation, then you get taken advantage of. That's the point that I feel like we're not focusing on. I don't care about this man and what his other endeavors are, because to me, he's not for the culture. I've been saying that. He ain't doing enough for us. I've been saying that for the culture. That's the only part I'm focusing on. What he's doing for himself, hey, more power to him. I hope he has future business endeavors. I don't care. That's him and his life. But what he's doing, the impact for the culture, he hasn't brought. I mean, you even have athletes, Aaron Donald and Jaylen Brown, now not a part of Donda Sports no more.
Right.
After break. Like and those are superstar athletes. We ain't talking about the fourth player on the bench on the Celtics. We ain't talking about the backup to the backup lineman on the Rams. We talking about the prominent stars on their team are leaving. So it's like it's affecting much more than just Ye and his business dollars and his, oh, he's a billionaire, oh, he's not a billionaire, oh, he represents for us. Oh, like this is more than that. You joined up with a man that doesn't have it right now. And when I say doesn't have it, I ain't talking about mental health. He just ain't got it, bro. Like, I don't see a reason or a light to pour into this man. I don't. The culture, as far as albums, as far as music, yes, the creativity was there. The greatness was there. But a lot of times in this day and age, we can't just expect our artists just to make music and not say nothing. I mean, Kendrick Lamar does it. J. Cole does it. But I mean, everybody's not them. You know what I'm saying?
See, here's the thing.
Of trying to be like that, it's like
right.
Now you're going to get the backlash, whereas now you're just constantly speaking. And like I said, with the whole Drink Champs interview, then you will get taken advantage of. Because like I said, you were just on Drink Champs a month before. So you don't need to be brought back for you just had a 3-hour conversation exactly a month before. So me bringing you back now means I want the ratings. I want the controversy. Yay, say something crazy so we can get our ratings. That's what I felt like, and I felt like he delivered. And since he delivered, voila, this is where we're at.
All right, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you are going to go to what, this is just a strategy and art of war, folks. Sun Tzu talks about this in his book. If you're going to go to war with anybody, be prepared for the fallout, for the consequences. That your weakest enemy can cause casualties. I'm going to say this again. Your weakest enemies can cause casualties. So you can't go to war with any group, any individual, or any idea of power and then be surprised, be amazed, be shocked that you got some casualties on your end. Because warfare, and this is all warfare, this is the business, right? Just as much as it's about the culture, it's about business. He was in business with some of the world's biggest brands, right? Balenciaga, Adidas, Gap. These ain't small-time companies. These ain't your regular mom and pop shop. Gap initially was talking to him about opening his own store just for his clothes alone. A Yeezy Gap store.
Mm-hmm. I've heard.
Adidas was talking about, even though now there's some discrepancies in Adidas's statement, that they actually they may still retain the ownership of the designs where he can trademark the name Yeezy, but they might actually still own the designs, which allows them to continue to produce the shoes even without him being on board. But these are brands that Balenciaga, let me tell you something, I ain't know nothing about Balenciaga, but now I see black folks walking around in the hood, bro, with Balenciagas. Now we on Balenciagas. Everybody talking, oh, Balenciagas, I got to get the hat, the belt, the shoes, blah, blah, blah. Then we got the people, black folks, oh, man, Adidas was nothing without Kanye. Bro, Adidas been around for 50 years. Bro, Run DMC did a song about Adidas.
So to Killer Mike.
What are you talking about? They weren't nothing. That doesn't matter. Even what he brought in, check the numbers out, do the math, because the math is going to be mathing on this. That he only made up 10%. He only brought in 10%. So where the other 90% coming from?
Beyonce.
From Ivy Park.
Yeah. Let's not like he's the only person.
Beyonce ain't carrying 90%, bro. She's
Pharrell.
not carrying that.
Pharrell.
My point is just that, you know, when we look at this, like this is warfare, bro. This is warfare. And you can't have a conversation, and you can't go up against any group of people, whether you're talking about Jewish people, whether you're talking about whoever, and not expect to get hit back. Like I said, your weakest enemies can cause casualties. So what do you think that you go up against somebody or group of people or institution of power? You better expect there's going to be some consequences for that. You better expect there's going to be a fallout. You better expect that they're going to kill, as Meek Mill said, they're going to kill your bank account.
So my question then is, so do we blame Ye or do we blame the corporations? Because these corporations...
No, because see, you know, my saying is with Ye, and that's why I started this conversation off with my original question is, has there been a moment when we saw Kanye not speak outside of himself? Is he breaking into these spaces for himself, or is this breaking into these spaces for us, for Black designers, for Black entrepreneurs, for Black business folks? You know what I'm saying? Or is he breaking in these spaces for himself, or is he breaking in these spaces for us? And I'm legitimately asking because I don't know, but I haven't read anything.
Right.
I haven't read anything.
But
is he worried about being a billionaire for himself, or is he worried about being a billionaire for other people? Is he opening the door? Because we can't get it confused that just because you're Black and in those spaces, right? Those high decision-making spaces, behind-the-scenes spaces, powerful spaces, that you're representing for, or you're opening the door rather for other people. You could just be there for yourself.
An ally or enemy, pretty much.
So I don't know. I'm throwing the question out there. Let me go to my culture crew, my online culture crew, and see what they got to say about this.
They've been wilder.
Because
I was looking at them like, let's get to them. I don't forget us. Let's get to them. They've been wild.
I got a lot of boy. They've been wanting to talk about this all day, but listen, I don't expect nothing less. All right, let's go to them. All right, we out. You say Kanye West don't care about Black people. The end was done with him with the slavery comment. Come on, man. We can't overlook that. We can't overlook that. Slavery is not a choice, bro. We can't overlook that. We out. Appreciate you. Rhonda Gillum, you said, whose culture? Kanye said something about Diddy and the Jews, and the next day, all his sponsors dropped him. Maybe this will wake him up, and he will build his own business for us, by us, if he can see that. Yeah. I mean, Kanye bulldozed his way through all of these industries and in these spaces. Y'all know how Kanye is Kanye. Ye is going to do Ye. He going to go hard. Ain't nothing sacred. Text messages, nothing is sacred with this guy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, again, I can admit to the fact that there's some elements of truth, but when you got all this other stuff going on, this other madness, and I'm always questioning, if you're making all this noise, if you want to go against, what's your intent, bro? What's the end goal here? What's the end goal? I shouldn't have to, if you're making this much noise, it should be very clear what your end goal is. But I can't tell what your end goal is based upon how you move. I can't tell. Somebody tell me if y'all can tell. What is Kanye's end goal here? Is his end goal what? President. Freedom, justice, equality?
President. He wants to be the president.
I mean,
that's I literally think
his end goal to bring Black people into these spaces I think what's your end goal, bro?
I think his end goal is personal gain to get to the presidency seat. I literally think that.
Come on, man. There ain't no way in the world. There ain't no way in the world.
But he was campaigning just in the last election. So it's like, that's what I'm saying.
I
Like,
get that.
it ain't like, it's like what we're saying, what you and I saying, ain't no way in the world us as the culture will vote for him. I'm saying the man's end game is trying to be where 45 was. That's where I think. I literally think that.
I don't, and you know what? I respect your opinion. I just disagree because he has to clearly know that he's not qualified for that. Mentally, emotionally, he's not qualified in the politics of understanding how government works. He's not qualified. The man has come out to say he doesn't read. And this is not throwing shade. This is, I mean, come on, folks. We can't slice up people's words or take bits and pieces of who people are and be like, oh, see, this is what, and try to create somebody from the bits and pieces. We try to create a person based upon our understanding and our view of him. No, you got to take him for who he are. Yeah, he's a man who talks about politics, but then there's a man that's also saying he don't read. Here's a man who says he's, talking about black people, but then, your lifestyle is that you always have been wanting to be acceptable to white companies and to be acceptable in white spaces. So what is it what we're getting into? There's a disconnect that's really big and it's important. There's a huge disconnect. Pookie-san, you said, I think Kanye needs to go on a hiatus to get himself together mentally and physically. He's losing so much so fast, he's shooting himself in the foot. Walker and Donald left Donda tired of sad endings. It's a sad ending. It's a cautionary tale, though. It's a cautionary tale. One is that you understand the dynamics of warfare, understanding business, understanding that if you go against anybody, there are going to be some casualties, even on your side. Even if you win, you're going to win with some casualties. But the way he's pulling this off, I don't see a win for him. I just don't see a win for him out of this. Shalinda, you checked in and said he's getting exactly what he deserves. Rose checked in all the way from London, Jules, watching us here on the Black Star Network. So excited about that. Rose said, never give up on Kanye, please. He clearly needs medical intervention. I think he needs medical intervention too, Rose. I'm not giving up on him. I'm just not putting so much into him. I'm going to take Kanye the way we need to take Kanye. Like, okay, Kanye. All right, yeah, I got you. But I'm not going to, what are we saying? Are we saying that we should put all our hopes and dreams and aspirations, political aspirations in it? Come on, bro. Come on. Like, I don't know. I don't think that, I personally don't agree with that. So I don't know. Rashida, thank you, Rose, for checking in. I'm glad that you're able to join us. Rashida, you said Ye is full of no more KW. He needs to be blocked everywhere. His stupid mistake was talking about Jewish people. If he kept bashing black people, would have been fine. No one won't care. Well, we would care. I'm not worried about the Jewish comment because he's feeling the brunt of that. But where's the brunt about the George Floyd? Slavery is a choice. What about all the stuff he said about black folks? Where's the brunt of that? We're still very acceptable.
See, that's my issue, bro. That is my issue. You say that slavery isn't a choice, but then again, everybody clamoring for Yeezys. I don't get it. I don't get this world we live in. I don't get it. How the man sales go up for merchandise when they say slavery is a choice, but then as soon as you say something about the Jewish community, now he gets canceled and now everybody wants to tag him with their personal opinion. Nah, this should have been going on when he said slavery was a choice. This should have been going on years ago when he said others quotables. He's very quotable. He says a ton of things that you remember, but whatever. Like,
right. I mean, look, when he says certain things very quickly, Jules, as we kind of close out, when he says certain things, what is the backlash that we as black folks in this country, what is the backlash that we have imposed on him? What was the consequences of his words about our struggle? Where was the backlash? Right? Now, certainly we can't stop him from making money. And I know people say, well, when he said that, I mean, those companies didn't drop him. Folks, y'all want me to help us understand some things? Stop thinking there's no double standard for Black folks. I mean, this will help to relieve a lot of pain and pressure and tension and heartbreak. There is a double standard when it comes to Black folks, man, and everything that we do. Let's just accept it, right? You can't say certain things. You can't do certain things. You can't move the way you want to move as a Black person versus white people or other folks. Let's just stop trying to do it. Why is it that? Because there's a double standard, bro. That's what it is. It's called racism. It's called bigotry. It's called bias. It's a double standard. Okay, so let's just accept the fact that there's a double standard for Black folks in this country in everything that we do. And once we start to accept that fact and we move accordingly, we won't be so heartbreaking, so shocked, or so surprised. Oh my God, there's a double standard. I can't move the way I want to move. If I did some crazy stuff, and I can be like, well, y'all ain't getting Sean Hannity. Rolly can't move the way he can't roll that way. We can't roll that way. Because why? There's a double standard. I understand that. As a Black man, it's a double standard for me. So if we keep using that same standard, well, white people could do this and Black people can't. How long has that standard been applied to Black folks? Ever since our soles of our foot has landed on the shores of this country, we were seen differently, we're treated differently, we're judged differently. We just got to accept that. All right, let's go back to my culture crew. Rashida, we appreciate you. Tiana, you said, I'm sorry, I'm not listening to a man who doesn't read. Not sorry. His mouth wrote a check that his ass can't cash.
Right.
Damn. Maddie, 1099. Tiana, thank you for your bluntness. Truly appreciate it. No, real talk. Thank you. Maddie, 1099. You said, you can't be present. His mind is not right. You can't be. Seriously, let's stop even putting that out there. Your mind ain't right for this. Patricia McGowan. Patricia, thank you, Maddie. Patricia, you said the slavery comment was when we should have walked away and prayed for the brother. We did pray for the brother. We just didn't walk away at the time. We were mad, but we didn't fully walk away. I want to share something as we close this out. In this piece that the Washington Post wrote about Kanye, they had quoted this brother named Van Lathan. Van Lathan was a former, he worked at TMZ. You're familiar with Van. And I think he gave this comment that I think really sums up where we are with understanding Kanye. And not just Kanye, this is about any person that we give so much power to, because that's the thing, folks. We create this Kanye, this Ye. We gave him the power. But let me just share with you what Van Lathan said about Kanye. Let's go to quote number, first, this is what Kanye said, quote 2. Let's go to post that one first, y'all, Ariel and Keenan. Quote 2, he said in his Drink Champs conversation, that's quote 3. Let's go to the second one. I want to go back to what Kanye said, because this is crazy. He said, the thing about me and Adidas is like, I can literally say anti-Semitic stuff and they can't drop me.
Yep.
I can say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me. Now what?
Yep.
That's what he said on the Drink Champs joint.
Straight said that.
And guess what happened?
He got a drop.
He got dropped.
Faster than a bungee.
And guess what happened? See, again, if you're going to war, you better understand. You better be prepared for the consequences. He got too arrogant, bro. It's sad. Like you, the way you moving, you got too much tied up into their system. If you're going to war with the system, then you better first take your stuff out of the system, so that way you don't catch it. Now. So let me just put this comment out there from Van Lathan, because I think it summarizes where we are. Van Lathan said, check this out. Now let's throw quote number 3 up on there, Keenan and Ariel. The cultural weapon that we give certain influential people, they don't build it, we do. He said, for years and years, we gave Ye this enormous bazooka of cultural influence, and one day we're looking down the barrel of it. Now, if we take, I just want us to think about this very quickly as we wrap up today. If we look at this quote, you take Ye out of it, and you put any person, any celebrity, any voice that you feel like is just kind of like this larger than life voice. That is what we have a tendency of doing, especially when it comes to celebrities, cultural influence, and all of that. That we give certain people this platform. We are the ones that create Kanye. Just as much, yes, he could be in these spaces, but it just showed that we are enablers of certain types of thinking, right? We are enabling Kanye, or we're enabling a Donald Trump, or we enable these people. So and I'm saying we as individuals, and then of course the companies. Because if CAA and Gap and Balenciaga and all of that, you mean to tell me they still partner with this man, even though he said wild stuff in the past? This ain't the first time. So it's like we are giving these people the platform, and then back to Van, this enormous bazooka of cultural influence, and then one day we're looking down the barrel of it. We are creating these kind of cultural, for lack of a better word, like these cultural Frankensteins. And I couldn't disagree with that, bro. Jules, you got the final word. I can't disagree with that.
This is it. I'm done. No more words. You don't deserve them. I waste my time. That statement of Van Lathan is true. 100% true.
Hey,
but
if we stop giving people so much, like if people who stand before us, who perform, who do sports, anybody that we praise, right? If we don't give them that license to say whatever they want, do whatever they want, then guess what happens? They are not going to say whatever they want. They're not going to do whatever they want. We don't, and this is the thing for me. If we don't set the boundaries for the culture, nobody else will. If we don't say that it's time to shut somebody down, I get it. This is part of why there is a cancel culture, right? Because there's talking about setting boundaries. But I'm saying specifically to Black folks in this country. We can put R. Kelly into that same thing. We gave him that platform. We made it allowed him for him to do what he did, the pain and for him to cause. We don't want to talk about it. I get it. But at the end of the day, we got to confront this ugly demon that sometimes we give people power that they can use to hurt us.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done, Joe. I get it. I'm done too.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Because this issue could be a 2-hour topic. And we're not going to keep on talking about it because it's just I feel like I have so much more to say, but
yeah, I get it. That's why we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back, and God willing, man, we will look at this from other different angles. There are some other parts of this that I wanted to talk about, not relating to Kanye, but to other, just the celebrity culture. Right. But I definitely want to have the conversation. Jules, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much, brother. Always good to talk to you. I'm so glad you're able to join us here on Wednesdays. And thank you for being so good for the culture, brother. Truly appreciate it and love you, man.
I'm just making sure I don't say anything anti-Semitic. Won't be me.
Hey, look, hey, like I said, if you're going to go to war with somebody, you better be prepared for their response. My man, Jules P, checking in. Oh, man. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank y'all so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the conversations. So, big shout out to our special guest from the WIN Network. Thank you, sisters, for being on. And again, folks, check them out at WIN Network and southernblackgirls.org. Check them out as well and the great work that they're doing. Big shout out to you, my online culture crew. I told you we're going to be working toward getting you even more engaged because so many of you have so many great things to say. And I want to make sure that we incorporate you and have you to be a full participant in this process. So we're going to be moving forward on some of the ideas that we have about bringing you further and closer into us, because we don't want to just continue to empower one voice. It's one thing to have me to have these conversations, but I'm just moderating, folks. I'm just simply moderating. We don't want you just to feel like just one voice. There are many voices that make up the culture. And guess what? Your voice is just as important as my voice, right? So we want you to become empowered to know that we want to hear you, we want to see you. And so we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that that happens. But we are working towards doing some different things, taking the show to the next level. But I thank you so much for y'all checking in and for supporting us. Make sure you go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com and continue to support us financially, continue to support us culturally, continue to share the information and the words about everything that we put out. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank my dynamic team. I want to thank Joel. I want to thank Ariel, my guy, King Keenan. I want to thank our control room. Continue to do the great work that we are doing here on the Black Star Network. Stay tuned. Up next at the 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is RMU, Roland Martin Unfiltered, with Big Brother Roland Martin and his dynamic panel of experts. So stay tuned for that. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.